County, Your Voice, Your Vote, Part 2, a special news presentation from 1330 WFIN and UFTV. I'm WFIN News Director Doug Jenkins, and I'll serve as your host this evening. Now, the March 15th primary rapidly approaching, and we wanted to talk to Hancock County voters to see where they stood on the issues and the candidates running for the nomination for their respective parties. Now, 2 weeks ago, we got together for the first time, and if you missed that, you can actually watch the video right now on the UFTV YouTube channel. We implore you to do that. Now, a reminder before we get into tonight's festivities, just a little bit on how we put the panel together. We wanted to make sure that we had representation from both political parties. So we decided to include one Republican from both the city and the county, and also one Democrat from both the city and the county. Our pool of potential panelists was formed by finding people who voted in the last two primary elections from information available through the Hancock County Board of Elections. Then we sent out letters to 50 random people from each pool, and in the interest of making sure we received timely responses, participants were then selected on a first-come, first-served basis. So let's welcome back our panelists representing the Democrats in the city, Karen Schuh, and also representing Democrats in the county, Sam Ellis. And then our Republican panelists from the city, Doug Couchot, and John Livingtston, representing county Republicans. Now, when we say representing the county, we don't mean that you're speaking for everybody in that particular constituency. They simply responded first. And so last time, nobody threw any haymakers. We all got along pretty well, so we decided to take out the table in between the four of them, and we'll continue on. So I want to thank you guys for joining us once again. I had a good time last time, and let's get into it. Last time we met, we talked a little bit about the candidates that you were leaning towards at that particular time. So 2 weeks have gone by. We've seen some debates and some other primaries go by. Has anything changed your opinion on your candidate so far? I think Karen, you were leaning a little bit more towards Bernie Sanders. Is it still looking that direction?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, even more like more.
You say more.
I really feel I've seen more of him, and I watched the debate last night, and I think he's just got great ideas, and he's so real. He's just someone you could really relate to, and so.
Sam, you were a little bit more in the Hillary camp, if I recall.
I liked Hillary, and I like Bernie. The only thing about Bernie is I think he wants more than what he can produce with money-wise. And I also liked John Kasich.
So has anything happened, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but has anything happened in the last 2 weeks to maybe solidify your opinion in one direction or another? Or are you still kind of feeling it out here in the home stretch?
I'm kind of feeling it out because I vote for the best man, not the politics.
So
or a woman. In this case, it'd be the woman.
Not necessarily looking for that D or R, just looking for the person that fits the...
More or less.
All right. Doug, when we talked to you, you were in the Trump camp. Over the last 2 weeks, has your opinion solidified on that, or how are you feeling on that?
I'm still pretty strong on Trump, and the underdog. The outsider, total outsider, as far as a career politician. Everyone else, other than Carly Fiorina that stepped out, and Ben Carson, Trump is really the only other outsider I hope will make a difference.
We're going to come back to the outsider conversation in a second, because I think that's an important topic to get into. But John, let's get into you. Over the last 2 weeks, I think you were leaning towards Marco Rubio at the time. Right now, polls indicate that he possibly might not be in the race very much longer. Does that influence how you might vote come March 15th?
Yes, it does. I'm kind of opposite of Doug in the standpoint is I'm looking for a candidate that can defeat Trump. So whichever candidate would be the best. Now, as I mentioned last time, I was still undecided, but leaning towards Marco Rubio. But whether it's Rubio, Cruz, or Kasich, whichever one I think is going to have the best bet to defeat Donald Trump is who I will vote for.
All right, we're going to talk.
So I've changed a little bit.
All right. Well, and that's part of the sort of the interesting thing with the primary process is, do you vote your conscience or do you vote strategically? We'll get into that here throughout our discussion. But let's talk about political outsiders right now, because that's been a big discussion here in this race. You've been leaning towards Sanders. You've been leaning towards Trump. and the big discussion is these are two people who come from the outside. Has that been part of your?
Well-
Obviously, he's been in the Senate, but
4
he's
years.
considered a party outsider, especially
Yeah.
when it comes to how the superdelegates and things like that go. Has that been part of? Have you thought about that, or
No,
it just
it's
seems to fit the bill for
Sort
you?
of like what Sam was saying. I go for the person more than, I mean, I lean towards the Democratic values, but if there were another candidate that was better, but I just happen to feel he's the right one for the job now.
John, I want to come back to you because you're looking at somebody to be the quote-unquote outsider, but at the same time, it doesn't seem like maybe there's the quote-unquote establishment candidate on the GOP side either. I mean, obviously, with Jeb Bush out of the race now, I think he was still in the last time we talked. There's not necessarily the GOP frontrunner anymore. Are you looking for an outsider, or do you want somebody with more inside baseball experience?
No, I like the outsider point of view. I mean, and that's what's good about Donald Trump is he is a total outsider. But again, I have problems with Mr. Trump's etiquette and delivery and professionalism. But you know, when you look at Cruz and you look at Rubio, you know, first-term senators. Yes, Marco's been governor, but you know, they're relatively still new to the political front.
Sam, what about you? Do you look? Does the outsider status or insider status make a difference to you one way or another?
Well, yeah, because I don't feel like Trump's qualified. I'd like to see somebody that was in the service, and the only one I can figure would be that would have the service would be John Kasich, because he's the governor of Ohio and he's the head of the National Guard. But Donald Trump, the big thing I got against him is he's a bully, he's a big mouth, he's a know-it-all, he's a bragger. And for all I know, I don't know how much money he's got. I mean, he tells everybody how much money he's got, but I heard the other day where there's $1 million or $5 million that he got for not going to that debate, he gave to the service. None of the service people says they got they got a little money, but nothing like $5 million. So.
Doug, let's come back to you because I don't want to make it like we're beating up on your candidate here.
Yes,
or
you
anything
are.
Like that.
No, we're
but-
not at all.
Well, I feel like what about it? You've come out a little bit as a Trump supporter. Certainly, we're all on the internet. We're all on Facebook. That's quite polarizing. In real life, though, we're sitting here, we're talking to each other, and it's a little bit of a different conversation. Do you feel like you're on the defensive when you come out as a Trump supporter, or how does that correlate when you're out in public or when you talk politics with just anybody else?
I don't normally talk politics, Doug. You know.
Right. Let's get back to the outsider status because that's what you were talking about, being drawn
Yes.
to that. What in particular makes an outsider an attractive candidate to you?
What makes Trump, the outsider, Mr. Trump, I feel behind this what he is doing. This I don't want to call it a charade. It's not a charade. It is a front, a movie, or he's putting on. I'm sure he's following one of his reality TV bestsellers. Going to get the most people to watch The View.
Sort of like his brand.
His brand.
Okay.
Now, for someone to be able to do that, he has a lot of people behind the scene that is advising him on what he should and shouldn't be saying. I'm almost sure that is the case. And ultimately, he picks and chooses whatever information he wants to go with. Now, some of it, I will say, is outlandish. But I think the whole political game that he is playing is winning, because the reason I say that there is some of the outlandish things he says is the TV people are just, they're crazy over it. And they say, this is the shot that's going to sink his boat. Well, he's got another cork, he plugs it and he keeps going. And then, but he's getting all the airtime. And it is sucking the air out of the Rubio. It is sucking the air out of the other candidates that don't get to speak on the stage there. So him being outlandish, what we think now is he's getting a lot of people behind him that feel their voice is not being heard. So good or bad, they gotta have a temper tantrum to get attention. And I feel that is what Trump's doing, just like his reality shows. You turn them things on and that's like, are you crazy? If people had that many bad days at whether they're logging or dating or making food or cakes, come on. So Doug, that's kind of where I'm going with that there.
All right. Let's get into the debates, because there's been roughly 100 at this point. Has anything been said, and we'll start off with your respective party. So when we talk to you two, we'll talk a little bit about the Democratic debates, we'll talk about the Republican debates with you guys. But has anything been said in your respective parties' debates that's helped sway you, or have any actions the debates actually maybe turned you off of a candidate? And I tell you what, we'll go back this way. So John, let's start on the Republican side. Have the debates solidified you in a candidate or a position?
Well, one thing about the debates is I have appreciated Governor Kasich not participating in the rude comments, the mudslinging. He has stayed above water, and I appreciate that. When I have watched both the Democrat and the Republican debates, I'm just fearful of what September, October, November is going to be when it comes to the political ads and everything, because debates already in March are so nasty, so dirty, rude comments, and and it's from every candidate so far. It's from both Democratic candidates, 3 of the remaining Republican candidates, but Kasich has stayed a little bit above water, which is something I've appreciated.
Doug, anything in the debates that's
During the
attracted
debate,
attention?
I really like that Kasich stayed above this circus act that they was conducting. And I feel that is really what hurt Rubio. And I believe his political characters told him to stoop to that level. I feel that if Rubio would not have went that direction, he would have been doing better. I think he also hurt himself for his future. Mm-hmm. He's just a junior senator, or
Yes. Well,
to
first term.
First term, and he wants to be president. Come on now, get some experience. And I think he actually hurt himself when he stooped to that level. He should have stayed up there with Kasich and just ignored him, and stay on the subject, the most important subjects.
We're going to come to the Democratic one in a second, but it's interesting because both of you guys highlighted Kasich's performance, especially in this last debate, yet neither really entrenched in the Kasich camp yet. I'm just curious as to why. And maybe the debate isn't the be-all, end-all of who you decide to support as a candidate, but just a curiosity, really.
Kasich, look at the numbers. These candidates are not looking at the poll numbers. And their people are telling them that it's time to bail. And their egos are telling them not to bail. I'm not a quitter. Well, of course they're not quitters. I'm not saying they're quitters. They got to be strong people to deal with the political situation out there. But I think some of the fat cats that's funding them just stay in there, keep fighting. I think it is hurting, especially Rubio, for his future. I hate to say that to her.
John, you leaned a little bit towards Rubio last time we talked, but you did mention Kasich a little bit.
for the 40 years that I've been privileged to vote in this country, I've always voted my conscience. But for the first time, I'm looking more probably at being a little bit more of a strategic voter. I would like a candidate that has Kasich professionalism with Donald Trump's ideas. That would be an ideal candidate. That candidate doesn't exist. And so I don't think Governor Kasich has a chance. Yes, he may win Ohio, but he really hasn't won very many, or what has he won? One other state, I think. So, at this point, I would probably say I'm leaning to more towards Ted Cruz because he does have an opportunity. He's running neck and neck, almost neck and neck with Donald Trump. It will make a difference about the next 2 Tuesdays. But I'm looking for the alternative to Mr. Trump.
All right, let's talk about the Democratic, the debates. Sam, I know beforehand we were talking, you said you've watched all of them so far. So is there anything that's solidified on your part?
I've watched them all, and I can't see where anybody would say the Democrats has argued. I mean, and if they have, it's been very mild compared to the Republicans. I mean, last night they got a little testy, but that was nothing compared to what we've seen on the other side. I think Hillary has got the foreign policy wrapped up better than anybody else. And at home, I mean, I think she's the best qualified one of all. And Kasich, back to him again, if he's the best man, that's who you vote for. That's the way I feel. So.
Karen, is there anything in the Democratic debates that stood out to you that may have clinched your allegiance one way or another, or at least you felt stood out?
No, I think, as he said, you could really listen to what they were saying, and they would cut them off, but they still may say, and last night was the most tense one between them that I've seen, but with the Republicans, you can't hear what the people are trying to say, and they just start fighting, and you can't really appreciate and I try to listen to hear what they're about, but I think more and more when I look at the two candidates, there are a lot of similarities, the two Democrats, in their viewpoints. So it's a matter of deciding which one is the most experienced or what you feel more comfortable with, and it's just the way it is right now.
Let's stay on that right now. Let's say that your candidate doesn't get in, or doesn't win the nomination. Are you comfortable supporting the other candidate? So if you, as a Sanders supporter, would you be comfortable supporting Clinton?
Yeah, I think so.
And same question to you. Would you be comfortable?
I'd have to think on that.
What makes you say that?
Because for one thing, he's 74 years old. Could be 78. He's talking second term. He'd be 82. I'm beyond that. And I don't think I'd want to be president at my age or when I was 80. So I'd probably go to Kasich.
Let's look at the Republican side. Doug, let's say it was Ted Cruz who would end up getting the nomination. Would you be comfortable supporting Ted Cruz in a presidential bid?
I would support the Republican candidate that would be nominated. But I also think that the established Republican Party has got it in for Cruz, in for Trump, and their boy Rubio he's not going to have a snowball chance in Finley. So that's my opinion. I'm just looking at it, and that's how I see it. But I will support whatever.
John, the $1 million question is for you, I suppose. Then.
Yeah,
so
it
let's
is.
say Trump wins the nomination. Would you be comfortable supporting him on the Republican ticket?
If I had to make the decision today, that answer would be no. But November's a long ways away. So there is time for me to be won over. And I'm willing to listen.
All right, with that, we are going to take a break. We'll take a couple minutes away. When we come back, we'll talk a lot more about the issues as we count down to March 15th and the primary coming up. We'll be right back.
It takes less than 1 minute to find out if you may have prediabetes. You can do it here. But you probably won't. You're busy. Kids, work, show coming back in 48 seconds. So let's do this now. Hold up one finger if you're a man, women, 0. 3 more fingers if you're over 60, 2 over 50, 1 over 40. If you're not sure, keep in mind you're sitting on a couch right now, so 1 more finger if you're not very active. 1 finger if yes, 0 if no. 1 yes, 0 no. Next, find the body type that looks most like you and hold up that many fingers while I look around awkwardly. And that's it. If you're holding up 5 fingers or more, you probably have prediabetes. Sorry to be so blunt, but hey, you're busy. Just go to the site.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's not something you buy.
Or something you take.
In fact, there's only one way to get it.
It has to be given to you, freely.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape. Consent.
If you don't get it, you don't get it. It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
So they say it's a man's world? Well, I don't see anybody's name on it. While they were out doing their thing, we slowly changed all that. We changed all that. Today, women can do anything men can do. And there's one thing we're even better at.
Logistics is proud to support UFTV and the Findlay Media Network. Watch Oiler basketball live on uftv.findlay.edu.
And welcome back as we talk about the issues leading up to the presidential primary here, or the March 15th primary in Ohio. And we talk to our Hancock County voters. I'd say potential voters, but I know you guys vote in the primary. We check the records, so we know you guys are going to be at the polls. Now that Ohio's in the spotlight, our primary is rapidly approaching, the advertising will be coming. Now, surprisingly, we haven't seen a whole lot of advertising just yet. I know I haven't seen a ton at all. Let's talk about that, though. One of the things that we hear every year is voters hate, we hate the negative advertising. One of the things we see every year is negative advertising because the campaigns say that they work. Have you ever seen a negative ad and had a response to it, either positive or negative, that has driven you to the polls? And Karen, I guess we'll start with you on that.
I don't think so. It's just sort of like the way they were at the debates as the season goes on, that they get more and more intense and start getting nasty. And I don't pay that much attention to it.
So even if an ad comes out and it says this guy voted against orphans, and you're like, wait a second, that guy did vote against orphans. I have to vote against him. That's or do you go and check the record on that?
Yeah, maybe check it out.
I don't know that anybody's
Sure.
running on an anti-orphan campaign.
No, I haven't heard of
just as
that
an
lately
example.
either. So, but
Well, Sam, what about you? The negative advertising, does it affect you one way or another?
Not a whole lot. I don't pay a whole lot of attention to them. I pretty well have my own mind made up, but they don't really have that much.
Doug, what about you?
Honestly, I don't get to watch a whole lot of television, about 10 minutes in the morning and about 10 minutes after work, and then back to the grind.
John?
Negative advertising has never persuaded me to vote for a particular candidate. I will admit it may have, in some cases, turned me away from a candidate a little bit, but for the most part, I just ignore
Just to
Mm-hmm.
it.
clarify, the candidate that was advertising, or the candidate that the ad was aimed at?
Well, today it's there's so many special interest groups that have chimed in that a lot of times the negative ads are not even from the candidates themselves. It's from some, special interest group. So that's why I basically kind of discard them.
I don't mean to be a Nielsen pollster here or anything, but I'm curious because I know my TV viewing habits are I watch a lot of stuff on the DVR and I watch Netflix, which means not a lot of ads are getting to me from candidates. If I'm watching something live, it's probably a sporting event, which I'm sure we'll see, and we'll see the commercials during those. But I want to talk to you guys about your viewing habits because you guys all represent different demographics. So I'm just curious, are the ads getting to you? When you watch TV, how do you watch TV?
We usually record a lot of things. We even record Jeopardy now because we're still maybe eating dinner and we don't want to miss it. So we do a lot of the DVR and some Netflix, but we just fast forward through the commercials. So.
Sam?
I watch a lot of cowboy shows, and we watch a lot of movies. I tape a lot of shows, and I fast forward the commercials. So I really don't see a whole lot of them.
Well, that's interesting because I don't feel like the traditional ads, or maybe I'm wrong, but the traditional advertising strategies may not work on TV anymore. Maybe that's why we're not talking a lot about ads we've seen. Doug, you kind of already mentioned that you don't have a lot of time for TV.
No, I don't watch a whole lot of television. I really hate advertising in between a program. It seems to drag them out a lot longer. I do like to watch the different news organizations to try to get to see what their angle is on the three major news networks. Some of the people on there, their voices are like, cat scratching on the chalkboard. But I do try to get a feel for what's the other side. How are they playing this latest food fight or issue that came up on whatever the.
John?
Yeah. Most of my opinions are formed by actually watching the debates at home. My wife and I are very guilty of the fact that we DVR a lot of our TV shows, and we have a feature that automatically hops over the commercials, and we hardly ever watch a show live anymore just for that purpose.
I'm not going to ask you guys about radio. I know you all listen to it all
And
the
we
time.
listen. I listen to radio.
So.
I wake up to you and Dave arguing in the morning, or you trying to straighten Dave up in the morning.
Thank you. That's
for some reason, Dave is not getting his proper vitamins in the morning. But I do like to hear that, and usually when I'm driving around, I try to listen to the different stations.
Let's come into a more Ohio-specific topic here. One of the big conversations in the state is household income. And while jobs have gone up over the last few years, the median income since 1999 is actually down to the tune of about 16%, I think is what I read. What about your candidate makes you think that they can reverse that trend? I think we'll work back this way. So, John, hey, we'll put you on the hot seat again.
Actually, the candidate.
Is there a candidate you think that can help reverse the trend?
Actually, if that trend to be reversed, I think Donald Trump is one that would really seriously tackle that. I've also heard Hillary Clinton talk about that feature also. But you're right. It's a real misnomer when you hear about all the jobs that's being created. Yes, there's a lot of new jobs, but a lot of those are are at the $11, $12 range, and that's just hard to raise families on.
I really think it's hard for any candidate to really make that statement, because that's like a train that starts up. It starts up really slow, and sometimes the president is out of office by the time that train gets up and moving. And then the next guy gets credit for it, and the poor guy that started it, he gets no credit for it. So those, as they say, shovel-ready jobs, maybe it's building the fence is a shovel-ready job, but it's sad that they can't get things moving a little quicker than they do sometimes.
Sam?
Well, pass it on over to her.
He's going to play fast.
He's deferring.
I didn't see that coming.
I didn't either, because I'm like, I agree that it's going to be very difficult, and that it's not something, Mr. Bernie has spoken about the inequity of income in general, or wealth in the country, and as I guess Hillary has also, but it's going to take a lot of effort, and I think a lot of industry cooperation, a lot of business cooperation to see that they're going to be willing to give up some of their cash, and I think a lot more training is needed by the corporations, offering it to maybe graduates. I'm really getting up on education and how we should prepare our kids for to go into the workforce or going to college, what they need for that, and it works both ways. The community should work with the industry, and the industry should come forward, I think, too. But as far as the politicians, it's going to be a tough call for someone to follow through on that, I think. Anyhow.
So do you want to come back to you?
Yeah, I think that they got to come back. I lost my train of thought again. Go on.
Well, I'm talking about, is there a candidate, or can a single president set in motion a chain of events that help with median income when it comes to households?
I don't think the president can, because the House does all the money. They decide how to spend the money. The president, the only power he's got is a veto. So I don't think the president's got that much power in it. They all say they do. I mean, they all take the credit, but they really don't have that much power.
Doug, just to bring students for our community of Hancock County and surrounding areas where they want to get higher skilled students, so they call on the Finley Millstream program to outreach to the students to go to their various classes. Quite a wide range of classes they offer. They still struggle to get qualified students to go to the school, the technical school. So it starts right there in the lower grades whenever they're trying to recruit these kids, the 8th grade, to encourage them to go into the Millstream Career Center to potentially get a career, but then their parents is at home saying, no, you need to be the brain surgeon and you're going to be the lawyer, and there's no way these kids are even capable of being a brain surgeon or a lawyer. They may make a great med tech student and enjoy it in life.
Well, let's stay with that, because we're running pretty short on time here, but let's talk about it. Job creation, job issues. Is that something that's affected from the highest level of the presidency, or is that something that there's actually more we can do about it locally? We're going to have to go quick here, but John, we'll come back down this way.
Well, to create the buzz, it starts at the top. I mean that is what every presidential candidate is going to say, is they're going to create more jobs. Mm-hmm. What presidential candidate is going to say we're going to decrease the workforce? Right.
Yes.
So yes, you're going to hear a lot of chatter at the top, but it actually, I believe, it starts at the bottom.
Okay, Doug, real quick,
The bottom, the local level is most important spot to do it.
Okay, Sam, real quick.
I'd say the bottom.
Yeah, I also, I think, for instance, Governor Strickland, who's running for Senate, he has a lot of experience with, and he's really interested in creating more work of the workforce. So he's on our level, so to speak, and represents us. So.
Well, we are out of time for tonight's forum. I definitely want to thank our panelists for participating, and especially the University of Findlay for hosting our discussion. Again, I'm WFIN News Director Doug Jenkins for Hancock County, your voice, your vote. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, the primary March 15th, and probably still plenty more to be said by all the campaigns between now and then. So it will be interesting. Guys, thanks again very much, and we will see you next time.
Get out and vote.
Yeah.
That's right.